As this evaporates, then it turns into a vapor and it pushes the air out. So basically in here, there's no more air, it's just water vapor. So it's coming, it's so strong, it's just boiling so hard that all the air just got pushed out through that hole, and then water vapor's coming out. Okay, he's sealing. So that as this is hot, now this is closed, it gets sealed. And this is just filled with water vapor or no air anymore. Okay. So this starts out then as Charles law. Okay, you increase the temperature, the volume of the gases in here increase. And because the volume is increasing, the gas doesn't fit here anymore, it has to escape. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So it's escaping because it's increasing.
Okay.
But now we close it. Okay, so now that it's closed,
It
the volume
changes.
is fixed.
Oh, and that changes the law then.
And now it becomes,
Pressure.
and so now
The first one
we're starting hot because the gas inside there is hot. And now he's adding water to the outside.
To change it.
He's cooling. So now the temperature's dropping, what's gonna happen to the pressure inside?
Increase.
It does the same.
Same?
Remember, yes, this is the only one, pressure volume's the only one that's opposite.
Oh, okay.
Everything else is the same. Pressure volume is the one that is opposite. Pressure temperature is the same, volume temperature is the same. Any one of those three with the amount is the same.
Okay.
So as you're cooling it, the pressure inside is dropping. Okay, so there's less collision because the water molecules are slowing down. So when they're not colliding here because they're slowing down. Their energy is decreasing, kinetic is decreasing, and they decrease enough that now they're going into the liquid state. And it leaves a vacuum in here. The pressure becomes so low, and here it's now becomes, not that it's increasing, but relative to what's inside, it gets really high. And eventually, it gets also low, but the volume, because it's fixed, can compensate. But the characteristics of the material, how much it can handle, eventually it gives out. Because just the pressure gets too small.
Whoa.
And it just collapses.
Wait, can you see that again?
That was awesome.
So if you just close it. By closing it, the law changed from Charles to Gay-Lussac's. It changed from V1 over T1 to P1 over T1, because now the volume is fixed.
So it collapsed because the pressure outside is higher than the pressure inside?
Much higher. There wasn't anything inside to keep pushing back.
Right, so that's why it just caves in. Okay.
Now,
Oh, it's still going.
how that can occur depends on the strength of the material and the characteristics of the material. So at some point, that 55 calorie gives in. Okay. Now, in terms of engineering materials, okay, you can make very, very strong materials, but there is always a limit. So because of accidents with cargo trains that carry explosive liquids or chemicals that can be toxic or flammable or things of that sort, there's a minimum set of standards that they're supposed to have. Okay, in terms of these carts right here, basically they're supposed to be able to handle like a fall from a cliff and not break so that they release what's inside. They're supposed to be able to tumble, like 10 times and still not break. And so basically here they were trying to collapse this cargo train, that tanker, by pumping out air. So instead of doing something like this, basically they just have a pump attached to a hole and they just keep sucking the air out. Keep sucking it out until it should do what that 55 gallon drum did. But they're designed not to do that. Okay. And so it didn't happen. They couldn't do it. Now, the thing with a lot of devices that are designed to be very strong is that in terms of damage, it becomes a one-time damage only. If you've ever cycled and bought a cycling helmet, it'll tell you if you have a hard fall on instructions, it says do not use the helmet again, buy a new one.
Yeah, they do the same.
They're only guaranteed for one day.
So what is it that they use a different type of material to design it that way?
It's a combination of materials, but also the shape of the design. So these tanks are not just the outside, but inside. Think of an egg. When you have an egg, the sides are very weak. But if you put pressure on an egg from the edges, it's very, very difficult to crack. They need to turn it a little bit. But if you push exactly on the top and bottom points, they can handle a lot of weight and they don't break. Sideways is cracked. Well, these are designed basically to handle those forces all around. So it's basically like an egg without the weakness in the sides, just strength.
Is it kind of the same concept as like a water heater? Like where it can contain that force that one time and then you have to get a new one once the
Right.
pressure release valve. But, okay.
Yeah, because once that gives out,
Yeah.
pressure cooker, it's supposed to open and
The
close.
pressure release, yeah.
But if you do take it to, if it fails for whatever reason and then it pops, then that seal is not good anymore. So here they're gonna drop a block and it's gonna damage it. So that they're doing, because it didn't budge, so now they're gonna basically create a crack on the surface. The crack, and a lot of materials are like that, like I said, cycling helmets. Rock climbing, the ropes, they're designed to handle basically one trip. If you do fall on them a couple of times, then the manufacturers will not guarantee that the rope will hold you next time you fall. So next time you go climbing, if you did follow that rope, you need to get a new setup. So it creates a fracture in the material that it cannot account for. And so now that it has this indentation, now they're pumping it out again and decreasing the pressure. And eventually it'll do what the 55 gallon. And right on top of my head, I cannot think of consumer items, but you know that you can buy used things on eBay and stuff like that. If it's something along these lines where it's some sort of safety thing, then you shouldn't buy used stuff.
Like
I
car
cannot
seats
think
and stuff.
Of something that you would buy used that would apply to in this case, other than like climbing ropes,
Wow.
But without that crack, it just wouldn't do.
So they had to crack it for it
To
do
break that seal.
So they have to check them for all that. That's why one accident they gotta get rid of it.
So now, since SpaceX, there's a private company that now does a lot of, before you're a telecommunications company and you wanted to put a satellite up in space, you would piggyback off NASA or the Russian Space Agency or the Chinese Space Agency. basically you would pay them to carry your satellite up into space. But then after, so the Challenger exploded in the 80s, Columbia exploded in the 90s, I think. And there was another one that exploded in the 2000s. So I think there were 3 of the space shuttles that had accidents. And after that, NASA just stopped their space program in terms of sending ships out into space. And so now there's a private company, I think it's SpaceX, and they're the ones that send, you can pay to send your satellites up into space, but they use a lot of recycled Russian rockets to send these payloads. And so they're reusable rockets. And they've had 2 of them fail. Now everything's automatic, there's no people flying them. But in terms of the loss, monetary losses, that they lost 2 trips to cargoes, where they were sending a lot of stuff over there because, and the thing is that those checks and balances from the Russian rockets, because they were recycled rockets, and it's like effective.
Probably lose more money that way if it explodes.
And in the early days of the space program too, the capsules were one time up and down. So once they came back, everything had to. So all the Apollo missions and the Saturn missions, they were every rocket, everything within one rocket was. And the nice thing about the shuttle program, Challenger, Columbia, and whatever the third one was that they were reusable.
Mm.
And actually they didn't fail, but their design at rocket needs to send them up to a certain altitude and then they kick in. Those rockets were the ones that
Didn't kick in?
It kicked in too
that
early.
exploded. So something within the structure of that, they couldn't handle the heats and they exploded. And so they were.
And then wasn't it that one with the teacher in it that they didn't die because of the explosion, they died because they fell to the earth at that altitude? That if they had had those safety measures in place that we have now, they would have survived. That's what I read the other day.
That's not how I remember.
No, I don't know. Well, they didn't put that out in public, but if you Google
The
it,
way the explosion looked,
it looked like they were
it's
goners.
very doubtful that any.
But if they had had the capsules that we have now, like the safety measures, they would have survived because they would have. That's what I read the other day. I don't know.
Maybe.
But they released to the public that they died in the explosion, but they did not. I'll find it and I'll email it to you.
Well, I know Congress had a lot of committees and for Congress that get people to vote. So I know Congress did a lot of research on that.
I'll send it to you, and then tell me if you think it's
the Challenger
true.
was the one. This is the one in the 80s,
Okay.
86, and this is the one where the teacher,
Yeah.
the female teacher was in. And you see a little spark. In one of the videos, you see a spark in between, like underneath the shuttle. Okay. And the thing with this one is that I don't know if you ever watched the movie Apollo, was it Apollo 13 or Apollo 11?
Oh, yeah.
Where Tom Hanks, where they
There.
were supposed to go to the moon, but they didn't make it to the moon because something started going wrong.
Is there a bunch of Apollos?
You see that flash?
Let's see.
Okay, there's a little flash, not that's propulsion, but over here, where you see like somewhere in that area.
Okay. Oh, I saw it.
And so the first 2-3 trips to the moon were a big deal because it's the first time anybody's been to the moon. But by the time the Apollo 13, I think, or 11, once their trip was, like, the excitement had died out, so nobody was watching on, on TV. But then it became a big thing because things started malfunctioning and they were not going to be able to make it to the moon. And they had to do a bunch of calculation stuff to try to get it back, and basically they used the gravity of the moon to basically to be able to get enough speed to come back. And that, so they had to get into orbit and use that centrifugal force to be able to get back to Earth. But like the math probably had to be very exact, because if not, they would miss the Earth and just continue flying in empty space. And then it became a big deal. Here with the shuttles, the excitement had died out, and nobody would watch the shuttles anymore. But this one, because it was the first time that you had non-professional astronauts and you had a teacher among them,
Everybody was excited.
that almost all the elementary schools took the day off, but basically they were not teaching that day. Everybody was watching television. So you have a bunch of elementary kids in 1986, you look to the TV, and the first teacher going to outer space, everybody's excited, next thing. And then it's
This guy.
and so you have all these kids, yeah, crying and stuff like that, and then, the teachers not knowing if it was a joke or what, or trying to explain what happened, so it became a big deal.
So she wasn't an astronaut?
No.
They went through the training, I know that, but
Did she
she
win?
was an elementary school teacher.
So why would they send?
Oh,
What was the purpose of sending her?
To get interest back into the space program, the new STEM generation.
She wasn't gonna stay out there. She was gonna go and come back. Like she wasn't gonna live out there. Like a month or
This was
so.
before the space
Because
station,
that's what Virgin's doing, right? They're gonna send people to space next year.
commercial where you can pay.
Yeah, because I have a friend that paid it was like 200-something,000 to get in line.
on that. So they're supposed to, now, they're just gonna take you to space and come back.
Yeah, you float for like 10 seconds and you come right back.
Yeah.
For
Here we-
$200,000.
To get interest back in space and math and engineering, and this is, in '86, this was the peak of the Cold War with Russia. And then it peaked, and then probably when Gorbachev became prime minister in the Soviet Union, he was a lot friendlier, and then by '89, the wall in Berlin fell. So it kind of peaked, and then it dropped in the next couple of years. But trying to get people interested in science and math, so the whole teacher going up there was a national contest where kids send their experiments. What experiments should be done in space while she was over there? And so there was a huge contest where these kids submitted their stuff, and then they were chosen, a series of experiments to be carried out in space. And so it was a huge deal then. And Reagan was doing that to get popular vote back also. So there was politics
Look at
involved
what I told you right now.
in terms of
Alive until last moment. But this isn't what I saw.
Eventually
No. When it goes down.
No, that's the one, you're talking about the recent one where they were still alive coming in, they knew they were gonna crash, and then it just disintegrated.
No.
Yeah,
Or
That's
was
a
it?
different one.
I think that was a Columbia.
Yeah, that was the
Oh.
last one, that's what she means.
I thought it was the teacher one.
No, because they were alive, they knew what was happening.
Oh, that sucks.
And everybody could see it yeah, that's it right there.
Oh, maybe.
They knew they were gonna die?
Well, they knew that they weren't gonna land.
So in the Challenger,
The
everything's
challenge
going
was
fine,
they didn't know
you're going up, and
they didn't
then
know they were
Yeah.
gonna die.
here, it malfunctioned and started dropping.
Oh.
And so it's on their way down and they're alive knowing they're coming.
Maybe
down.
that's what I was reading.
The Challenger, they knew they were gonna, I mean, they didn't, the first one they didn't know because it just, they exploded, they died. This one, they knew they were gonna crash. Or I don't even think they crashed, right? It just disintegrated.
From the forces.
So I think that's the one.
That's probably it.
That's,
And so, and I think this is where they. So let's see, 82, yeah, 86. So that year, Reagan was up for re-election. And I think he had just won re-election, part of it was. And so there were engineers on the Challenger, there were engineers who said that the systems were not ready. And there were a lot of engineers, systems and checks. But there was pressure to get it up and running at a certain point. From the president, supposedly, from Reagan. And so the Howard executive said, you know, we'll just push it through, fix it, but the engineers.
Oh,
And then there were engineers that right away, they quit. You know, right after. And it was the heat shields that were fading. And if you, the heat shields, they're always a big issue. If you watch that Hidden Figures with African-American scientists in NASA, the engineering work, that's all they were working on. And that said, it was the heat shields for them too.
oh, wow.
On Columbia, I don't know what happened with Columbia, but a little bit after Columbia is where NASA just decided not to, because at the time there was the next generation of space shuttles were being built and designed, and after that they just stopped. So our space program has been on hold for like 2 years. And a lot of people, the argument is that nowadays, going back to the movie Hidden Figures, nothing existed. The math was brand new, the technology, everything was brand new, nobody had it. Everything was built and designed in-house. By the 80s and 90s, a lot of components are bid on. So you put it up for bid, a company says, oh, we'll build it for so much. So basically, you're getting the companies that bid the least amount of money, making the components that are being used in these systems. That's nice.
Oh, what's that?
I think when it started falling apart.
Oh,
And I think it detaches, but I don't remember. I remember the Challenger. And then that's because I was in school.
what year did this come out?
The Columbia, 90, you know what, I'm not sure. Late 90s, early 2000s?
No, it's in high school? I don't remember this.
And for Columbia, there was cockpit video. So I think when they were, but I don't think it was released. But supposedly, there was video from inside the cockpit when it was falling.
Shut up.
Wow.
And that's, I think, when they said that they were still alive, because inside everything was fine.
That sucks. So were they trying to land or were they just falling out of the sky?
I don't know much, but I think they were just falling. And you're talking
Oh.
a couple thousand miles.
So that was like a weak spot there? Is that what they're showing?
Well, not a week, but it had already
Degradation.
given up. And so you have those, I think, points right there. And I think once that goes out, then there's no way to control it. And because of the high speeds, the way it comes in has to be very well controlled. So it's not like if you can come in and then slow down. But basically, it's like
Oof.
comes in and then eventually slows down enough to be able to land the capture whole,
Revolution.
course of the way around the Earth. That it takes it, basically it takes it how long to slow down to a speed where it can be controlled. So it's a very slow.
Well, it's like in an airplane when they go around and around to slow them down before they land. When you're in an airplane.
But here,
Yeah.
it's so fast.
Yeah.
And
Damn.
yeah, so I think this may be the one
That I'm thinking about.
This one they were alive, so I don't know if it's this one here. And Columbia was the first space shuttle.
1981.
Well, this is when it made its first trip. But not when it crashed. Okay. 2003.
Oh, I was out of high school. Why don't I remember this?
So 20 years, 22 years in service, I guess.
Damn, I'm old.